for Calgary-Lougheed.
Spring 2017 legislative session, and I'm not even going to start with the NDP's record-setting deficit, debt and downgrades. The government opened with Bill 1, which will increase transportation and other costs by over $1,000 per student for many families in my riding, the opposite of making lives better for Albertans. Next, while Ontario took 2 years to review their Labour legislation, the Alberta NDP spent a mere month on a 252-page document to learn that business and employer groups are gravely concerned that they are not being heard, and it sounds like the NDP are on the backs of Albertans. The NDP claimed they needed to get it done right now, and yet they had 2 years and 2 ministers to get this process rolling, but chose not to. Apparently, stories about Star Trek, Pink Eye, the WWE, and expanding a winter frame are more important to the NDP. The NDP also had 2 ministers in 2 years to introduce a viable bill which could have ensured real change to the child intervention system. But Paula Simon's scathing assessment of Bill 18 demonstrates just how much is missing from this legislation. Then the NDP missed yet another opportunity to declare Serenity's law. Her family even came to the Capitol to encourage the government to take action and call a public inquiry. Our caucus asked questions on their behalf, yet again, and still the NDP refused to budge. And there's more. Hundreds of Albertans have died as a result of the fentanyl crisis, and yet, despite constant calls from this side, the NDP refused to ever call a public health emergency. And finally, the NDP have been telling Albertans that the burden and harm caused by the carbon tax would all be worth it in the end, because it would give Alberta the social license required to build pipelines to Tidewater, except that the NDP's comrades from the other side of the mountains unequivocally reject the notion of social license. The NDP try to talk a good game, but Albertans can't wait for 2019. There's so much more, but I've only got 2 minutes. We can only revive the Alberta advantage for future generations once we unite Albertans once again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.